Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. President Biden announcing new virus measures this week. The Surgeon General says there will be more actions, especially on the global front, and some American workers resigning and suing over vaccine mandates. Moderate Senator Joe Manchin confirms he will not vote for the $3.5 trillion budget bill, and he denied a claim by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that he has weekly meetings with big energy companies. It's been 20 years since the attacks on 9/11. On Saturday, a ceremony was held at Ground Zero. NTD spoke with some people in the area to see how America has changed since the attack and whether they think we won the war on terror. In the wake of the 20th anniversary of 9/11, experts reflect on how security in air travel has evolved over the last 2 decades and the impact on travelers. President Biden will announce more COVID-19 measures before the UN General Assembly meets this week. That's according to the U.S. Surgeon General. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy says President Biden will announce more virus measures this week.
The president will be making announcements ahead of the UN General Assembly about additional measures that we're taking to help vaccinate the world.
The next session for the UN General Assembly starts Tuesday in New York. Last week, Biden issued several executive orders, including mandating that businesses with 100 or more employees require workers to either get the vaccine or be tested weekly. It would affect about 80 million private sector employees. But Republicans say they'll file lawsuits against the mandate. Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts told Fox News Sunday his attorney general is coordinating with others around the country.
And as we see what these rules are, we will be able to know exactly how we will be able to challenge them in court. I'm also talking with my colleagues around the country as well, the other governors who feel the way I do, and we'll be working on other strategies.
Governors of Georgia and Texas have suggested they'll follow suit. And a hospital in New York will stop delivering babies after maternity workers resigned over former Governor Andrew Cuomo's vaccine mandate. Lewis County General Hospital in Lowville says it'll work with state officials to make sure the shutdown isn't permanent. That's according to WWNY-TV. 6 employees in the unit resigned, and 7 more apparently unvaccinated workers are still undecided. And 6 employees with the Los Angeles Police Department sued the city over the weekend, claiming its vaccine mandate violates their privacy rights. The suit also challenges the LAPD's alleged failure to provide a process to submit requests for exemptions. The plaintiffs include LAPD employees who have already recovered from the virus and believe they shouldn't have to get the vaccine. An unnamed LAPD officer told the Epoch Times the lawsuit could grow to as many as 3,000 or more employees. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Democrat Senator Joe Manchin said that he's not going to vote for the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill. It contains initiatives on climate, social welfare, and in other areas. He argues that the price tag is too high. And Manchin said that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was wrong when she said he has weekly meetings with energy companies. Senator Joe Manchin told CNN on Sunday that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer won't have his vote on Biden's $3.5 trillion spending plan. He added that Schumer is aware of this and that the two have talked about it. Manchin claimed the federal government has spent too much money in recent years, and he's concerned about adding more to the national debt. He noted that Congress has already released about $5 trillion to help Americans, and that money will continue to go out until next year.
And a lot of the help that we put out there is still there, and it's going to run clear until next year, 2022. What's the urgency? What's the urgency that we have? It's not the same urgency that we have with the American Rescue Plan.
Manchin has said he could back a $1.5 trillion version of the bill, yet Senator Bernie Sanders says a smaller budget reconciliation bill is unacceptable.
We worked with Senator Manchin to pass the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, which was enormously consequential and helpful to working class families in getting us out of the economic disaster that befell us as a result of COVID. I believe we're going to all sit down and work together and come up with a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill.
What's more, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez accused Manchin of cozying up to big energy companies. AOC tweeted that Manchin has weekly huddles with Exxon and that he gives his pen to lobbyists to write so-called bipartisan fossil fuel bills. He responded by saying she's not entitled to her own facts about this and that she is wrong.
I keep my door open for everybody. It's totally false. And those type of superlatives, it's just awful. continue to divide.
Meanwhile, Democrats are finding ways to pay for much of Biden's expansion of the social safety net. They propose increasing the corporate tax rate to 26.5% for the wealthiest businesses. It would also impose an extra tax on people who make over $5 million. It's been 20 years since the attacks on 9/11, the day that changed the future of America. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum held its annual commemoration ceremony this Saturday. NTD's Jason Perry went to Ground Zero to speak to those in the area.
We are here in New York City, right outside of the World Trade Center, where family members have gathered to read aloud the names of those who were killed in the 9/11 attacks, and also those who died during the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Only family members of the victims of the attacks were allowed inside the ceremony, so we weren't able to get any closer. Looking back on that day in 2001, it had a big impact on how Americans interacted with one another.
People were talking to one another, and typically in New York, that never happened.
I think that 9/11 2001 really brought Americans together because we were under attack, and we unified as Americans in the face of the attack. I think right now, after 20 years in Afghanistan, and the unity is not quite there in this country.
One visitor brought his family to New York from Houston, Texas, so his children would be able to see and learn what happened on that day.
We've gotten a little bit united after the attacks. It lasted for about 5-7 years, and we actually have that conversation a whole lot. So, throughout time, everybody seemed to have forgotten what happened, and people started getting divided again.
These people know the truth.
Others said they hope it doesn't take another terrorist attack like 9/11 to bring everyone back together again. And with the 20-year-long war on terror, another attack may not be as likely.
When they declared a war on terror, I realized that is such a, I can't think of the word, but not a war on a country. It's a war on an ideology. It's a war on a theory. I mean, no, I don't think you can ever win the war on terror because there's always going to be people out there in the world wanting to do harm.
I'm wondering why they kept building and building and building with so many people dying. But now I guess I see the people from, what's that, Afghanistan? Coming here to live now.
It was 20 years ago today when the Twin Towers came crashing down. Many are taking this time to reflect on what happened that day and remembering the thousands of people who lost their lives. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
Amid memorial ceremonies and services over the weekend, the FBI released the first previously declassified document about the 9/11 terrorist attack hijackers. It comes after an order from President Biden days earlier. The 16-page, heavily redacted document was written in 2016. It sheds light on a Saudi consular official and a suspected Saudi intelligence agent in Los Angeles who allegedly provided two of the terrorists with logistical support. The document says the FBI didn't find evidence linking the Saudi government to the attacks, though 15 of the hijackers were Saudi nationals. Families of victims who died have long sought the declassification of the report. Some of them, among thousands of others, have filed lawsuits against Saudi Arabia seeking billions. The Saudi government denied any connection to the attacks. The United States and Saudi Arabia have long been allies and even coordinate on counterterrorism issues. And former President Trump made a surprise visit to the New York City Fire Department and the New York City Police Department on Saturday.
It's a sad day. It's a very sad day for a lot of reasons. And we just added to that reason last week. I grew up with you, and you are New York's finest. You're incredible people.
He went on to criticize President Biden's pullout from Afghanistan, saying that it hasn't been covered properly by the media and that he felt it was very disappointing. An NYPD officer then asked him if he planned to run for president in 2024.
Are you going to run again, Mr. President? Oh, that's a tough question. Actually, for me, it's an easy question. Okay. So, I mean, I know what I'm going to do, but we're not supposed to be talking about it yet from the standpoint of campaign finance laws, which frankly are ridiculous, okay? You want to know the truth. But we have to live with it. But I think you're going to be happy. Let me put it that way, okay? I think you're going to be very happy.
Trump said he appreciated the New York City police having endorsed him. He left the NYPD's 17th precinct amid cheers and applause, signing some autographs and waving to the public. Outside New York, Saturday also marked a day of mourning in Pennsylvania. People across the state gathered at various ceremonies, grieving lives lost during the 9/11 terror attacks. NTD followed up with 3 of these locals ceremonies. Let's take a look.
Pennsylvania's Garden of Reflection hosted a 20th anniversary ceremony for 9/11 on Saturday. Hundreds gathered at a memorial park in Bucks County to commemorate the tragic day. A local fire station came to support the event. Its deputy chief said he hopes the memory of 9/11 will restore patriotism in the country.
The days after the event of 9/11, that how patriotic and everybody gave a hand and lended their support and for not just the firefighters and police and EMS, but for the residents of New York City. And it would be nice to see some of that back again.
With 18 lives lost, Bucks County had the highest 9/11 death toll in Pennsylvania. Among them was Victor J. Saraceni, the captain of United Airlines Flight 175, the aircraft that crashed into the South Tower. The garden bears thousands of victims' names, all etched in glass, and a special wall of reflection allows visitors to leave individual tributes. Also in Bucks County, members of local Right for Bucks organization gathered at a restaurant. They honored 9/11 with speeches, dinners, and band performances.
20 years ago,
one speaker, David Christian, is a co-founder of the United Vietnam Veterans Organization. He said terrorism can't scare him because he's an American.
Right after 9/11, the whole Congress came together. The whole Congress stood under one flag. They carried one flag. They said the Pledge of Allegiance together. They sang God Bless America together, both Democrats and Republicans. We weren't Democrats and Republicans after 9/11. We were Americans. We're Americans today. We're Americans tomorrow. And Americans will come together.
Elsewhere in Pennsylvania, the Washington Memorial Chapel honored one of its members who perished on 9/11. Louis J. Knack was on board United Airlines Flight 93 when it was hijacked, but he and other passengers kept the plane from being used as another weapon of destruction. The hero now rests in the chapel cemetery at Valley Forge National Historical Park. After the Saturday service, prayers were said for both 9/11 victims and those who died recently in Afghanistan. NTD News, Philadelphia.
And in Orlando, Florida, firefighters climbed 110 flights of stairs to pay respect to the brave men and women who ran into the World Trade Center to help others during the attacks on 9/11. Video shared on social media shows the firefighters in full gear climbing an interior staircase. More than 340 firefighters and 60 police officers were killed on the bright Tuesday morning of September 11, 2001, in attacks that left some 3,000 people dead. Many of the first responders died while inside the towers, trying to reach victims trapped on the burning tower's higher floors. Air travel changed drastically after 9/11. For the past 2 decades, flying has involved a vast series of security measures, and it continues to evolve. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
There were no long security lines. Passengers and their families could even walk right to the gate together. 2 months after the attacks, President George W. Bush signed legislation that created the Transportation Security Administration.
The tremendous change was really the creation of the Transportation Security Administration. That was not a thing prior to 9/11. And with that creation, they took over screening at airports from the airline contractors.
The TSA's force of federal airport screeners replaced the private security companies hired by airlines. The legislation required that all checked bags be screened, cockpit doors be reinforced, and more federal air marshals be put on flights. In the 2 decades since 9/11, security measures evolved with new threats. Travelers were asked to take off belts and remove items from bags for scanning. The shoe bomber Richard Reed made footwear start coming off at security checkpoints too.
Yeah, well, I'd say it's definitely not a security theater. We spend a lot of money, and we have 60,000 people in this agency dedicated to ensure that the transportation system is secure.
For consumers, air travel became more stressful than ever. The TSA's methods have evolved as well. It's currently testing the use of kiosks equipped with facial recognition technology to check photo IDs and boarding passes. The TSA will also expand the use of private companies to gather personal identifiable information from pre-check applicants, causing privacy concerns.
Databases are inherently hackable. If somebody gets in and changes their information, changes your information, steals your information, you have no way of knowing what's going on. So you could be standing in front of the kiosk and all of a sudden it could pop up and say, you're on the no-fly list and you can't get on the plane today. What do you do at that point if your digital identity has been stolen?
While there are concerns about privacy, TSA Administrator David Pekoski says there are also safeguards in place. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And on the anniversary of the attack that led to the war in Afghanistan, one of the last casualties of that war returned home. The body of Marine Sergeant Johanny Rosario Pichardo arrived at Boston's Logan Airport Saturday. Pichardo was one of 13 U.S. service members killed by a suicide bomber during the evacuation in Kabul, Afghanistan last month. From the airport, an honor guard took her body to her hometown of Lawrence on Saturday afternoon. The Veterans Memorial Stadium will be hosting a wake for Sergeant Pichardo on Tuesday, and she will be buried with full military honors later that day. Coming up, vaccine passport plans are scrapped in Britain. The nation's government is instead planning steps to ease its pandemic emergency powers. Find out more in just a minute.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
The British government has abandoned plans to introduce so-called COVID passports in England. It will also take steps to end some of its pandemic emergency powers.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will formally set out on Tuesday his plans to manage the crisis in the winter months. Johnson's under fire from some in his Conservative Party for raising taxes to fix a health and social care crisis. Health Minister Sajid Javid said on Sunday that he did not anticipate more lockdowns and that the COVID vaccine passports would not be introduced in England. Under the plan, people would have had to use the passes to prove their vaccination status to enter some venues such as nightclubs. The government will depend instead on vaccines and testing to defend the public. Javid also told the BBC he was not, quote, anticipating any more lockdowns, but would not take the measure off the table, and that he wanted to end PCR tests for travellers as soon as possible. The Nighttime Industries Association trade body, which represents the nightlife business, welcomed the U-turn.
Thousands of protesters marched in Paris on Saturday for the 9th straight weekend, condemning France's government-mandated health pass.
French government requires a health pass for people to enter cinemas, restaurants, gyms or museums. The pass shows proof of vaccination, a negative test or recovery from the disease. People on the march chanted slogans such as freedom And Macron, we don't want your pass. This man says he's hoping the government withdraws the health pass, and especially that they don't make vaccines mandatory.
I'm here because I don't want my loved ones to die from the vaccine. I'm not confident of this vaccine. I'm not anti-vax, but this vaccine I don't trust. That's all.
This woman says she protests every Saturday for freedom.
It's my duty for my children, for my grandchildren, living in a free country as a woman who is vaccinated or not.
The government says it's necessary to combat the pandemic. Violent clashes broke out at another protest in Toulouse when an unidentified group attacks demonstrators with sticks and walking crutches. The Interior Ministry said 121,000 people joined anti-health pass protests around France as of Saturday evening.
Firefighters battled a raging wildfire in the mountainous Sierra Bermeja in southern Spain on Sunday. The country sent in a military unit to help tackle blazes burning close to a Costa del Sol resort. The wildfire, fanned by strong winds, has now driven out close to 2,000 people and killed one emergency worker since it erupted on Wednesday. Huge plumes of smoke rising above the mountains could be seen from miles away. Footage released by emergency services showed firefighters trying to contain flames in the dry, wooded terrain amid high late summer temperatures. Evacuees, some elderly, sat around plastic tables in a sports center in the nearby town of Ronda as volunteers brought in bottled water, chairs, and supplies. The fire covered roughly 15,000 acres, according to provisional data. The Regional Forest Fire Agency said 365 firefighters were tackling the blaze, supported by 41 aircraft and 25 vehicles. The Regional Environment Chief said that the blaze appeared to have been started deliberately, and investigators were working to uncover more details. Now let's turn to the U.S. Open final. Novak Djokovic's bid for a record 21st major title collapsed at the final hurdle on Sunday in a stunning defeat by Russian Daniil Medvedev.
Serbian tennis star Novak Djokovic won't be making history this year in an upset loss at the U.S. Open final on Sunday. He was trying to become the first man in over half a century to win all 4 of the majors in the same year, a feat known as a calendar Grand Slam. Djokovic was also bidding for a record 21st major title, but collapsed at the final hurdle in a stunning straight-set defeat by Russian world number 2, Daniil Medvedev. Final score 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. Medvedev was playing in his 3rd Grand Slam final and at last hoisted his first win, avenging his straight-set defeat to Djokovic earlier this year in the Australian Open final. An extraordinary women's final earlier in the weekend softened the spotlight's glare as 2 unseeded teenage players faced off for their first major title. The 18-year-old British player, Emma Raducanu, defeated Canadian Leylah Fernandez to become the first qualifier to ever win a Grand Slam final in men's or women's tennis. Although Djokovic arrived on Arthur Ashe Stadium court with the weight of history on his shoulders, he left with the support of fans and the hope of breaking the record for most major titles, still tied at 20 with Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal.
Over 460 national and international participants competed off the Florida Keys during the Swim for Alligator Lighthouse race, an 8-mile open water challenge. 29-year-old Tampa Bay resident Kana Signorin won as top individual swimmer. The former University of Florida swimmer, who won All-American honors 5 times, turned in a time of 3 hours, 5 minutes, and 37 seconds. Top female finisher Brooke Bennett, 41, of Clearwater, Florida, completed the race in 3 hours, 29 minutes, and 20 seconds. Athletes swam to Alligator Reef Lighthouse off Isla Meralda around the beacon and came back to start and finish points at Amara Cay Resort. Founded by Florida Keys artist Lighthouse Larry Hurlth, the annual race is staged to raise awareness about preserving the almost 150-year-old Alligator Lighthouse and 5 other aging lighthouses off the Florida Keys. The event also raises college scholarships funds for Keys students interested in competing swimming. If you haven't slept inside of a giant potato, here's your chance. The Big Idaho Potato Hotel is now open in Boise. The 6-ton potato is made of steel, plaster, and concrete. It's actually been around since 2012, touring the country. but it has recently been transformed into a cozy Airbnb, includes everything you need for a night's stay, including a custom-made bed and a refrigerator. To celebrate the Big Spud, McAllister's Deli is launching a sweepstakes for a free 4-day stay at the Potato Hotel. To enter, head to McAllistersDeli.com. The winner will also get a ride on the Big Idaho Potato Truck, a semi-trailer that carries a 4-ton fiberglass potato. Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com/.